everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News, the show that may or may not be 5 minutes. Today in the news, we learned a lot about Microsoft over the last 48 hours, thanks to the many leaked documents that apparently Microsoft themselves accidentally leaked. Is pretty wild, but one of the smaller pieces of interesting news came from a document in May of 2022, where Microsoft apparently saw Baldur's Gate as a second-run Stadia PC RPG. And this, of course, set the internet off. But rather than take the news negatively, Larian Studios had a different perspective on this info. Larian's director of publishing, Michael Dowse, shared, "In their defense, so did everyone else. Same with DOS 2. Comes with the genre, and the way we approach things, and the way we execute things. There just isn't any existing data that could have told anyone how BG3 was going to perform. We just had to take giant, spooky leaps. But those giant, spooky leaps paid off. Paid off real well. And I think it's safe to say that myself and pretty much anyone else who was following this game and was like, you know what, I'm a fan of Divinity. I like what they did. No one could have expected it to be this big. Baldur's Gate 3 is a phenomenon. It is a game that may be one of the best games ever made. It's so good, and I don't think anyone expected that at all. Clearly, even Larian was like, well, we hope people play it. And that's not to say there weren't fans who were really dedicated during the early access days, and of course the game got a huge spike of interest after Larian's Panel from Hell, which was, yes, aided by the Astarian Halsin bear sex scene. You're welcome. But also, positive reviews, word of mouth, fandom springing up around different characters, fan art, cosplay, all this helped continue to keep the game in the ethos in a way that got people who weren't very D&D savvy into Baldur's Gate. And frankly, when it comes to the news, I want more of this. I want more of success stories and more of games that kind of come out of nowhere and blow everyone away. Surprises, good, wholesome ass victories for games that are, pushing genres forward or giving people what they want and being good consumer-friendly games. Things that just make the industry better. Please, so much more of that. I love to cover that on the news. It wouldn't get as many clicks, but I'd feel good about it. Speaking of feeling good about it, I feel pretty good about this next story. So, Unity, we all know it's a complete cluster F. And as the Unity executives try to backpedal and we didn't mean all the things that we might have said, more and more game devs are speaking out about why Unity's plan was terrible. And some game devs are even going further. Relogic, the studio behind the beloved and popular Terraria, shared the following yesterday. The team at Relogic has been watching the events surrounding Unity with both interest and sadness. The studio said in a statement on Twitter, "The loss of a formerly leading and user-friendly game engine to the darker forces that negatively impact so much of the gaming industry has left us dismayed, to put it mildly. While we do not personally use Unity outside of a few elements on our console mobile platforms, we feel like we cannot sit idly by as these predatory moves are made against studios everywhere." Yes, you heard that right. Terraria doesn't even really use Unity, yet Relogic felt compelled to voice their thoughts and concerns about the matter. They even went on to share, "We do not feel that a simple public statement is sufficient. Even if Unity were to recant their policies and statements, the destruction of trust is not so easily repaired. We strongly feel that it is now equally important to get behind some of the other up-and-coming open source game engines, lighting some candles in an otherwise dark moment." So to top it all off, Relogic is now donating $100,000 each to the Godot engine and FNA, these open source engines for devs. Then going on to add an additional $1,000 a month in donations moving forward. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Unity did a crap move, but seeing game devs and the gaming community come together to support other engines and be like, you know what, F Unity is so good. It feels so good. Granted that last we heard from Unity, they apologized for the confusion and angst their runtime fee policy caused. Now, personally, I wouldn't use the term angst there, but okay. Additionally, the company stated they would be making changes to the policy and they would share an update in a couple of days. So while no one really knows what these changes will be, no one's expecting much, and more importantly, most people are just kind of over it. Unity shot themselves not in the foot, in the leg multiple times, and then the other leg just to make sure they couldn't hobble across the finish line. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much, and I will see y'all tomorrow for another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News.